Hi everyone, my name is Kevin.
And I'm Michelle.
We're the host of Paranoid Founders. Paranoid Founders is a podcast that interviews business owners who are relentless in building, scaling, and defending their business. We realize that founders who are a little bit obsessed and paranoid are the ones who eventually succeed. The name Paranoid is actually inspired by the former CEO of Intel, Andy Grove. He wrote a book on Only the Paranoid Survives.
And in each episode, we'll have guest founders who will join us and we'll deep dive into their strategies for their revenue, people, and systems, and helping us uncover insights, mistakes, and lessons that has helped them mature as founders. And this podcast is also brought to you by Contingent, which is our insurtech company that specializes in business insurance. So for the first episode, we will be talking about our own experience being co-founders of our pet insurtech company, Oyen Insurance.
We want to focus on three things: systems, revenue, and people. These are the three most important pillars of any business. We thought it would be great to have our own business as the first episode because we are paranoid founders. I think there are so many occasions where we were just thinking about, oh my God, what happens if this happens? So let's start with revenue. Of course, in the early days, when we talk about pet insurance, people were hesitant. People have tried selling pet insurance for a very long time, in the last 10 years in Malaysia, but they have never succeeded. When we came in, we really wanted to do it differently. When we thought about how we're going to offer our value propositions, it's really in providing an excellent claim service. And with that, the word of mouth will drive itself. When we talk about revenue in the early days, the business model of most insurance agencies is they earn a commission. Then, of course, have to pay for their operation costs, their system costs. Retail insurance is a high volume business. So you really need to start off by having scale. Pet insurance businesses in the past have never scaled because they've never reached that lift-off point. I remember the second year we grew by 4 to 5 times. And that was insane because we've hit something in the nail and the great customer service that we were offering. From a revenue standpoint, early days of building it, I think we really focused on digital. This was during COVID, so the fastest channel we can get started was our paid media, our content strategy. And we really dive deep into things outside of insurance. Not just talking about insurance. I think people really hate just for selling insurance, right? But we really talked about the entire ecosystem and what pet owners are concerned about.
Yeah. I think one important thing to note here is that what we're selling is kind of thin air. And with insurance moving to digital, there's not even a physical policy that you can hold. So when we were thinking about how to do marketing, how do you even go to social media and try to sell something where you cannot touch? Unlike other e-commerce brands or a lot of other brands, clothing or whatever, you can easily take photos of like nice looking people, like looking cool and looking great, but we couldn't do that. So we tried to adopt some marketing strategies from these companies and try to incorporate them into the insurance business that we're running. So one of the things that we did, that we thought of was, how about we just send all our customers a welcome gift?
That's right.
Because you're not receiving anything. Unlike buying other things, you are anticipating in the mail where you receive something and you open and you're very excited, right? That gives you joy. So we tried to replicate that, and what made it really cute and fun and really turned into something on social media is putting like the pet's name on the parcel and then writing like a customized welcome note to all our initial like 100 customers or so. So during COVID, like we were packing all these parcels from my home, learning everything about packing parcels and writing like tons of notes every day.
So I think the lesson there is doing things that didn't scale. This is a cliche, but I think it shouldn't be understated. All founders or business owners should really be doing these personalizations in the early days.
Yeah, and there's nothing beneath you as a founder.
Absolutely. The other thing that we realized as well, and if some of you out there who are digital players or hoping that customer would just like to experience your product or services online, is that we thought people wanted a direct digital experience. So we built a beautiful website, right? In the beginning, we optimized here, we looked at this and this button should be here. And we thought that customers would just sign up on their own online. But the reality is, for a product like insurance, you really need that hand-holding. So we decided to build a sales process and have a consistent sales pitch and also have a sales strategy.
What we've done was what all business owners would do. When a customer asks you a question, then you answer the question. That's it. And then we were wondering like, why weren't there any sales coming in from this? And then we realized that there needs to be a process So we created something we call our sales strategy. We learned from a website called close.io, I believe. I'll leave that in the show notes. We've learned different types of closing strategies, and then we turn that into what we still use today. In fact, like a sequence of information that will make a customer informed, get them excited about the product, and then ultimately encourage them to purchase.
We eventually managed to scale that. What's really important is also thinking about cost. I think for most business owners, you may think, should I spend the money to get customers? Should I spend the money to get leads? We thought about it very pragmatically and also a lot of discipline in the early days, thinking about the customer acquisition cost and the return. So I think it's very important that you also set up this system where you can keep track of every marketing spend and how much will the returns be, like calculating the long-term value. I think that's important. So revenue, not just for revenue's sake, but knowing how much you spend will return.
And your
what is
ROI
return
at the
and
end of the day.
Yeah. Talking about defending it, right? I think most businesses, once they reach a certain scale, of course they want more growth. Who doesn't want more growth? Right?
Yeah.
But I would like to talk a bit about maybe competitors. Because once you build up your business, you will attract other people to do something that similar to you.
Yeah.
Right? And we always thought that, okay, we're the pioneers, but eventually someone will come into this space. What do you think, Michelle, when it comes to competition, defending your revenue?
Yeah.
What are the right things to think about?
One thing that we were always very thoughtful about was not to be too obsessed over our competitors. I think competition can be good because it encourages your team to be more paranoid like you are. And then they are more excited to act on things more quickly. For us, we didn't really invite many competitors until sometime last year. I think it's almost been a year now. And we knew about this entry of our competitor into the space a couple of months before they officially launched. There were so many things that we did.
We were paranoid. We were in paranoid mode.
We're extremely paranoid. We would set up this like Slack channel to get the team involved in this little project to combat whatever the competitor was gonna do. Everyone was like anxious but excited, like doubling down on doing their work. But I think one of the things that we said during our all hands to our team leading up to that launch was, we know we are doing great here. You don't have to be worried about what other people are doing because we know we are doing great and we're helping our customers every day. Yes, there may be people who say that, okay, what's the comparison? We were prepared for all of those to combat what customers would say, competitive comparisons, not to give to everyone, but like just in case that our customers come back to us with that, like we have something to show for and show what our value was. So I don't think competition necessarily is something that founders should be afraid of. In fact, like sometimes there may be opportunities of collaboration with your competitor, not that we had, but that's an interesting way to think about it. And sometimes it creates more opportunities and it creates more awareness for your market. For a market like ours that was so niche, us doing all the work ourselves was tiring. So I think having the competitor and having their own market and their audience that they can reach out to also help create awareness for more people to know about us.
That's right.
Right? So I don't think it was necessarily a bad thing. In fact, I think the team was excited to do something different and be excited that someone's going to come and compete with what they're doing. That's right. Do you think about competition in a different way? Or?
No, I think we were both very aligned on this. The minute we heard about the news, what's very important is that we continue to deliver service. Like we shouldn't start focusing on how do we beat the competitors.
Exactly.
I think that's the most important point that we need to remind our team. We shouldn't be obsessed about our competitors. We should continue to be obsessed with our customers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, but we also need to make sure that we are ready to counter.
Yeah.
So I think we delivered that pretty well.
Yeah.
We remained consistent.
Yeah.
We also stood our grounds on certain things that we feel like the competitor may overpromise but underdeliver.
Yeah.
But for us, it was very important to underpromise, overdeliver. That's been our motto as well. Right? So what about retention, retaining your customers? Because it's also partly defending it. Right? What do we do at Oyen well to keep our customers?
Yeah. So I think one thing that's important when it comes to a business like ours is the renewals or the retention, because your customer will have to continuously purchase your product, right, year after year, or for other types of products after they've used it. In the early days, we had an assumption that people would, and we didn't pay too much attention to having to dedicate a proper process to renewing or retaining our customers. Our retention and renewal rates continue to be quite good from the get-go, But I think when we hit a certain number or a certain scale, we couldn't just do it like by the way and have someone do like half the time they're doing something else and half the time they're trying to like call customers to renew. So I think about a year-ish plus ago, we started creating like a proper system, like proper renewal reminders, like having people be dedicated and setting goals, not just from a monthly basis, right? How much percentage of people we want to renew, but instead like down to the specifics of every week, we need to target this specific number of people. And we've learned a lot on the way. So for us, digital channels weren't our only acquisition channel after a while, right? Like we started having to go to like pet exhibitions, and that served us really well in terms of acquiring customers in person at the exhibitions. But what we realized then, because we did so much, like we were so excited about over-delivering our customer service and customer experience at the exhibitions, helping the customer do everything from end to end, we realized that when it came to renewal, they didn't know how to renew, do all those things digitally themselves because we helped them do everything. Then we learned that for this specific group of customers, we had to handhold them even more and remind them even earlier. Tell them like, oh, you remember like we met at the exhibition and how did we automate all of those things to keep the personalized touch for them. So I think one of the key things that we learned as well is that your customers have their own demographics. Like for us, like dog customers and cat customers behave differently. People in urban areas and people in rural areas behave differently. And even the acquisition channel, whether they came from digital or they came from in person, are also very different behaviors. So with time, refine and strategize your acquisition or your retention strategy to these specific types of demographics for your business.
So maybe what are you paranoid about for revenue? Currently?
I think for all small business or medium-sized business owners today, like the things that they are most paranoid about is seasonality, perhaps growth, unless your business is super indestructible. Otherwise, you'll probably always be paranoid about your people and your revenue side of things. Yeah.
So let's segue into system, because you were talking about systems a lot. The claims don't just magically get paid. Maybe walk us through the early days of Excel sheet to no longer using Excel sheet. To me, that's the
pinnacle.
That's the pinnacle, when you stop using Excel sheet.
When we started, obviously, from an insurance perspective, you don't immediately have usage, right? After the first couple of customers, only you start having your first claim. And at the start, obviously, the volume of claims is not going to be insane, not like what we have today. So we just started with emails first. Right. Just send one email, okay, this is the case and this is the receipts and all these things. And you can deliver them in so quickly and in such like detailed personalization because there's only one claim, right? Your first claim is magical. The first like 20, 30 claims, some were done in 24 hours. Mm-hmm. Obviously, that can't be done today. But we started with emails, and then as we grew and we had like multiple claims a day, then they had to be in an Excel sheet, and then like we had to compile like the receipts and we name them in a folder. And because we work with an insurance company, so we do have to send this over to them and for them to review and like, do the approval, and then we have to inform our customers. At one point, this was a bit too much, and we had to move into building our own dashboard, like claims management or claims review dashboard, to really standardize all the information that comes from the customer, present all the information that we need from the customer in a nice way and comprehensive way, and then make our decision from there.
We've both experienced working in tech companies. Yeah. So we know from day one, it's a fine balance of like how much over engineering versus preparing for the transition. Yeah. And when you prepare for the transition, you don't even know if your business can take off.
Yeah.
So it's a very delicate decision that you have to make.
Yeah.
But whenever we think about doing like MVPs, we always make sure to keep the transition in mind. So like data structure and all these things like are easily transferable. To me, the important thing about systems is always efficiency. For claims side, I think the bulk of it is how do we communicate between the clinics, the customer, and also our insurance partner. I think that part is just...
It's continuously a work in progress. And I think the challenge there is because there is no... I don't think there is a gold standard in Malaysia. In terms of like volume, like frequency, I don't think there's any other insurance product
auto.
But that is because of the number, and they have had a lot of experience, and they have a proper system that is set up from a national perspective. So a new product, niche product that there's no one in the market that has experience, I think we've built something that's quite incredible.
Yeah. So how do we actually scale that? Like how do we go from Excel sheet into suddenly having this whole dashboard that runs and we're able to process more claims without hiring more people?
One of the key things that we do and we are always looking forward to is like learning about new technologies and new things. The system or the tool that we use today was introduced by one of our freelance engineers. So he was working for a YC company and then he said like, oh, we use this system, it's like the coolest thing ever. And we used it and it was the coolest thing ever. And I'll let you know what it is in the show notes and the
DM us,
description.
we'll let you know.
Yeah, it's a secret. Shh, not everyone should know. And it's like super easy plug and play. Like then we work with our engineers to set up our database structure and moving away from something like Airtable. And we just started building dashboards and systems. And we just always went back to learn more about the SaaS tool that we're using. And the more you learn, the more you know what you can do. And today it's just like extremely customized and you can do everything with it. Always be on the lookout for new things that you can adopt into your business that helps you with certain business challenges. I think as entrepreneurs, don't be stuck at what you currently have. There's always something that's gonna be better or cheaper or something that you think is a magical solution that doesn't exist. I bet it exists today.
For some of these business owners, right, maybe they're just not tech-enabled or they're not tech-experienced.
Yeah.
For these companies that are not tech-enabled, what do they do? Who should they talk to?
I think one of the most valuable resources in this century is ChatGPT. So honestly, like when I don't really know how to do something or there's just something that is either repetitive or you can figure it out yourself, but it will take too much time to do from scratch, just ask ChatGPT. It's really worth paying for the premium version. If you're a business owner, can you suggest some tools if you have a budget with this budget and just let me know like what? And then ask me, you can ask it to ask you questions. Ask me 5 questions that will help you be able to find the correct fit for the challenges that I'm facing. So what are you most paranoid about in terms of the system?
I'm very obsessed with our settlement times. How long does it take to pay our customers, settle our customers' claim, not just proving but paying. I have a number in my head when we started this business. It's not there yet. I think the experience that I was going for is magical. As much as I like to say we are doing a fantastic job, I think we haven't reached a magical moment. I think what we learned is that we're really going against the entire insurance legacy system and behavior, and we've become a bit more grounded, but that's not to say we're still not obsessed. Like we're really pushing the boundaries, even with our partners. We're really challenging them to do better. I think what I'm paranoid about is that number going up. Yeah, I really always worry about that. And there can be many reasons why that number will go up. And sometimes it's within your control, sometimes it's out of your control.
For us, as a business, as you're growing, like you have fires that you have to extinguish, and then you always have the growth challenge, right? So for any business, there's always going to be challenges. And obviously, we've gone through seasons where like that number has increased. After going through a few rounds of those, like we've now been able to identify these things earlier and put into place things that will stop it from growing even more. And then like managing customer expectations better, right? Sometimes customers can be understanding and all you need to do is just let them know in advance. All these things we learned from people telling us that like, why? Like you should have just told me earlier and then it'll be fine. So I think a lot of times you need to be able to collect feedback well, have conversations with your customers, meet them, or if you have a full-fledged like customer support team, make sure it is ingrained in them that they are always seeking for customer feedback. Like for example, like we have NPS and we have 2 CSAT.
CSAT is a customer satisfaction score and NPS is net promoter score.
We let customers have multiple avenues to give us feedback and let us know like what they are very happy about and what they are not very happy about, so that there's still a moment to salvage that before it blows up, for example.
Actually, the other thing I'm very paranoid is complaints going viral. I feel like these days, it's every business owner's nightmare. Not just concern, like they're really paranoid about it. We have a really good system on how to manage escalation today. But the people manage the system, right? And sometimes there could be slip-ups or workflow that we have never considered, like managing some of these customers' expectation. And then you will always have that one customer who say things like, I'm going to talk to NST, I'm going to talk to Malay Mail.
I have like 100,000 followers.
I have 100,000 followers.
Whichever social media
pay
platform.
my claim.
Even though it's clearly not permissible.
That's right.
I think that's where it's hard for us because sometimes it's very clear cut, but people can be unreasonable.
With customers like try to call us 20 times in the morning, and I've also had some experience because as founders, as business owners, when it escalates beyond our team's ability to handle it, we jump in and take those calls, right? Of course, it happens less and less these days.
So I think some of the things that we've set up, like from a system notification perspective, is like every like Google review, like every low NPS score, every low CSAT, like
We jump on it.
Yeah, we jump on it immediately. I think we jumped on it enough for our team to also develop that for themselves. Like they know exactly like what step 1, step 2, step 3, like what do they have to do in order to help mediate the situation.
Right.
So I think that's on like kind of system, people, revenue, all of that kind of
Let's
combined.
segue into people.
Yeah.
It's my
so
favorite topic.
Yeah. I would love to start asking you about people first. What are your thoughts about like people working in like small companies, small startups? Like how do you hire the right people? Or on the flip side, identify when people are not the right fit anymore, and what do you do with that?
One is hiring, one is knowing when to let go. I think we have the benefit of a bit more experience in our previous companies in hiring people and identifying the right fit. There's also systems behind hiring.
Yeah.
And these are things that you put in place to reduce the likelihood of you hiring the wrong person.
Yeah,
But
that's right.
you can't eliminate.
Yeah.
Sometimes this person can just flourish in every interview. But for me, there is art and science in hiring.
Yeah.
Right? I think the science is like knowing every step, like how do you do it? Because there's also speed involved. You also don't want to take too much time. So for us, it's a phone call just to quickly identify in 10 minutes whether they are a good fit or not.
Yeah.
We do also have assessment.
Yeah.
But nowadays with ChatGPT,
Yeah.
it's
So I
hard to
mean,
really
the trick is
identify.
I create my assessments with ChatGPT, but I also put my assessment back into ChatGPT and get the answer. And if the candidate copies exactly what ChatGPT has given, then it's something to take note of. Not exactly like a red flag, but something to remember.
Yeah. And then of course we have our face-to-face interviews where we will then get like feedback from the leaders. And also the way we ask questions, I think that's very important.
And we've refined that with time.
And then always do reference checks.
Yeah.
Like front door and back door. So back door will be like the names that they didn't give you through people that you know.
Yeah.
What's always worked for us has been referrals. So some of our early hires were really friends
Referrals
of
from
friends.
friends.
That's right. What's also very important is you also should know what are your team's core values are. Sometimes in the early days you don't know, but over time you're able to develop that, and we're happy to talk about it separately on core values. But to us, it's really important to anchor that.
Yeah.
Then based on your core values, you are able to identify whether this person is a good fit or not.
Yeah. So practically, if someone is a bad fit or there's a reason.
Yeah, that's tough. That's always the toughest. So,
But I think one of the things that we've learned, and I mean, for us, we are always seeking for new knowledge as founders, and we are always like learning new things. If someone said something, obviously we also think about whether this applies to our business. But I think one of the things that we read was there was this like thread on Twitter of this guy who was talking about being a founder and running a business, and he wrote 50 tips and tricks about running a business. And I remember one of the things that were written was that if you are thinking that someone is not right for the business, one of the things that always happen is that after you let this person go or manage them out, you will always not regret it. And the only thing you regret is not doing it sooner.
that's right.
So I think that continues to live within us, I think.
That's right.
That, okay, that sentence always anchors us back, because if it is detrimental to the team, the growth, and just not being productive for the business as a whole, then there's really no need for you to find ways to maintain or keep this person around.
Which is why we nowadays place more emphasis on the probation period.
Yeah.
We know some companies who explicitly mention upfront that
You may not pass.
you may not pass your probation.
Yeah.
And I think that is a great way to set expectations.
Correct.
Because you really don't want to take those 3 months lightly. And you can immediately tell whether this person is a good fit or not in those intense 3 months. But of course, if things only start to show much later, I think it's all about communicating with your team, your employee, and like being upfront with them. They're just not delivering, so it's a performance thing. The other one is culture, which means like they can be completely not the right culture fit, they are toxic. They're creating an environment that is not conducive for the rest of the team. So being able to identify those 2 things and communicate that to your team member, right? Nowadays, we learn this thing where you don't really want to do your annual performance review once a year, because it's not fair, right? Like you're only telling this person that they're underperforming at the end of the year. So we've really encouraged this thing during either monthly reviews
Our development chats or our one-on-ones.
or to encourage them to ask us, or we will also offer that. If we were to be doing our annual performance review today, what's your score? So in our team, we use 3, right? Like meet expectation, below expectation, and exceed. From that conversation, you're giving them a chance to like deliver if they're under-delivering. So these are like what we've learned over the years on how do we manage people.
I would like to flip the topic over and talk about something that's more positive about people. Employee health, productivity, benefits, and these things.
I think it's getting more and more difficult these days. I think just the stresses of work, right? We were just at an event yesterday at a panel that really talks about founders' health, founders' well-being, and also our employees, because how we feel in our company, in the team, will really cascade down to our team members. To us, finding that right balance to push your team, but also telling them that, hey, you also need to make sure that you are responsible for your well-being. We are here to help, but we can't take ownership of that. In our personal experiences, we've had team members that have they go through a lot, right? Like personal and work. One thing that we try to inculcate here is that I don't think we are the kind of employers that think work is work and then personal is personal. It overlaps, right? How you are at home and your mental, physical well-being will affect you at work and vice versa. Some people may feel differently. Some people may feel like, oh, I'm not going to talk my problems at all. And we've seen how that has not worked out.
I think from the get-go as a business, like understandably, money is usually tight. Yeah, you have financial constraints, but I think one of the key things that you should definitely think about for your team, and then from the perspective of like genuine care for their well-being, but also it's great for talent attraction and talent retention, is to provide some level of like employee benefits. So do think about like getting the medical coverage. You never know what happens, and that can go a long way for your employees.
That's right.
I think that should be the core. So after you have that sorted as the base, then you can think about the other ancillary things, and you have to consider things like your employees' demographics, their age group. Like our employees are pretty young. I think they're like in their 20s. We do encourage them to think about like how they can do like group exercises together. Encourage them to do that. They do like hiking, badminton, pickleball, all these things, and think about things like maybe providing them additional like outpatient benefits, right? We do a nominal amount that they can claim for their clinic visits, and the company pays for that for them. So I think those are things that can go a long way for employees when it comes to their actual health, for instance, because I think one of the things that business owners worry about, and I'm paranoid about, is that I just told someone on my team that every morning I wake up, one of the things that I'm paranoid about is who is going to tell me they're going to be on MC today. And then I have to figure out how to manage like their work, and then having to deliver the bad news to their team that, okay, this person's not coming in today, like you guys have to fill in for them. I think maybe a lot of employees, if you are working in a company, you don't think about that. You just think, okay, like I'm sick and like I can't come. Okay, which is fair. I think you don't have to go to work if you're sick, but then it has a cascading effect to the team. So if that's a recurring pattern, like how can you look after your health, not just from a work perspective, but obviously from a personal perspective? Having good health just keeps you happy, and you can do things that you like, and there's like a nice cascading effect of being healthy. So I think that's definitely something to think about.
Yeah, I think we've had some tough conversations with some employees as well. When you see it as a pattern, like you're not just going to sit back and then do nothing about it. But it's a tough conversation to have, because how do you tell someone you got to figure your shit out?
It's almost like people may feel you're prying into their personal lives, but overall it's good, right? If you see someone never eating lunch, or only having instant noodles for lunch, and like never drinking water and don't eat vegetables. We don't want to be your mom, but maybe it's a bit of like your responsibility, right? As like a mature adult to also like inform someone else of these things. Yeah.
What else are you paranoid about?
I mean, people are the core of the business. Deep down inside, for every business owner and every entrepreneur, you're always afraid of like people leaving. We are very modern in terms of how we think as business owners, and we do also sometimes think that for some people, when the time is up, like it's time for them to go and do something else, and especially if they showcase that they are ready to do something that's different. I think one thing that people should take note of then, I suppose, is making sure people are not leaving for the wrong reasons. If they are leaving because of something that they are not doing well and they're just running away from your challenges, then that should be managed, and like you should talk to them. And even if they don't stay with you, we want to help them grow continuously with time. But yeah, I'm paranoid about people leaving.
Yeah. I'm sure our employees will listen to this or watch this. And so they'll start to say, oh, that's what they do. So we also do this thing, and I think we can share. We tabulate this amber.
Oh yeah, I learned that from my previous company. We have an annual people review, and we rank people, not performance-wise, but like on their like motivations and their eagerness to stay. So there's red, amber, and green. So green means that like in the next 6 to 12 months, quite highly, 100% that this person is gonna stay with us. Amber means watch out, there may be a reason why someone will leave. Red is they're confirmed gonna leave, but sometimes it's not because of something that's not good. For example, we have an employee who went to the US to further her studies. So then that's a red because she already told us like months in advance, right? So then we know that we have to plan. And I think those are the good types of leaving because they let you know 6 months in advance and then like you have 6 months to plan that transition period. But yeah, I think we do that and we are very realistic with that. Not, oh, this person will never leave us.
I think we've become like paranoid to pragmatic. I think being paranoid is not about the irrational fear. I think the term may have a negative connotation.
Yeah.
But for us, it's like we are always proactive about thinking about what might happen and plan for it.
Yeah.
Hence, like being a bit paranoid is important.
Cool.
So I just want to recap. So we talked about 3 things, right? Number 1 is revenue. How do we grow the business? How do we scale? How do we set up sales operation? Number 2 is systems. What do we build? How do we go from Excel sheet to having a system? And what dashboards do we use? How do we build it? And then the third thing is about people. And there are all these things that we are paranoid about, but I think that bit of paranoia makes us better business owners, being more prepared, thinking about problems all the time. And for today's first episode, maybe I just want to thank everyone, whoever of you who are listening. You're probably our friends or family. And we're not doing this show to like self-glorify, but we realize maybe we have to. Sometimes we go out and people say, oh, you're from Oyen, we've never met you before outside in any event.
I'm your customer, I've been your customer for years.
Yeah, and that's because we just like to be behind the scenes.
And do our work.
Yeah, but I feel like more and more maybe we should come out of our little shell and be out here more. And I think starting Paranoid Founders is also our way to get in touch with the community and share these experiences.
Yeah.
And we don't know yet who will the next guest speaker be. Our first guest speaker, actually.
Yeah.
But we're super excited to introduce them to you and also to talk more about what we can learn and what are the things that we can help each other with.
Thank you so much for tuning in and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.